What's going on YouTube? So the Audi TT RS and the Audi RS3 were the first models to launch the Audi Sport sub-brand here in America. And in the time since, we have been anxiously awaiting the day that we get to finally drive one of them. And that day is today. So let's go ahead and get behind the wheel of this baby R8. All right, so let's go ahead and kick things off here with the exterior. Now, of course, you don't need me to tell you that this is going to be the meanest TT. Especially when you choose the black optic package like what we have. So across your grille here, this is the slightly updated design that started out last year in 2019. So you have this black honeycomb finish, you have the dedicated TTRS branding, and then we have the black badging and the black trim all around the lower areas. Now off to the side of that, of course, we have fully LED headlights, but since this is a little bit of an older Audi design, you're not going to have the matrix lights or any fancy animations. And then finally down below here, we just have an absolutely gigantic brake cooling duct, which is fully functional. And checking out the wheels here, you've got three different options. We have what I think are absolutely amazing looking. These are the 20-inch black optic alloy wheels. You can't actually get this same design, but with a gray finish instead. And then if you choose the base model, then you have a 19-inch silver alloy. And one of the nice things about this design is that it leaves a lot of open air space to show off these beautiful red brake calipers. As far as the brakes themselves, they are gigantic. 8-piston, 14.6-inch ventilated disc, and you also have 12.2-inch vented disc in the rear. And finally, as far as your mirrors, when you choose black optic, obviously you're going to have the black mirror caps. These are also heated, auto dimming, and power folding. And then we also have blind spot monitoring as a standalone option.
Alrighty, and checking out the rear design of this TTRS, it does still have that distinct TT design, except it's way sportier for this RS model. So probably the biggest thing that you're going to notice is this giant wing spoiler up top. This is going to be standard across the board. However, you can get an optional deploying spoiler if you want that. And then coming down to the tail lights, these are going to be standard fully LED. You have optional OLED tail lights. And then dropping down, we do have a fully blacked out rear diffuser with these absolutely massive large diameter exhaust outlets, which are pumping out an optional sport exhaust system in this particular model, which is included in that dynamic package. Now, even though this TTRS is certainly a performance-oriented model, I have to say I'm a little disappointed that Audi has not thrown in any of their safety systems. So you heard me right, the only thing you're going to have is blind spot monitoring, but of course that's not what this vehicle is aimed at. But anyway, guys, that sums up the absolutely gorgeous exterior design of this TTRS. Now let's go ahead and hop inside before we do the part that you've really been waiting for, the test drive.
Of course, as you would expect, the TTRS does come standard with Audi's intelligent entry system, as well as a special RS branded key fob. And then to get inside the vehicle itself, just grab the handle. And taking a look inside of this cabin. It really doesn't bear any resemblance to most of the mainstream Audis. If it bears any resemblance to something at all, it's got to be the R8. Now with this model, Audi is not offering you any color options except for black, but you do get to customize the stitching and the accents. So as you can see on this example, we have the red stitching with the red accents down the side and all throughout the cabin. You can also get black or blue or gray options as well. And as far as the seats themselves, these are the beautiful fine Napa leather seats with the quilted design, and they are standard equipment across every TTRS. Turning over here to your door trim, you'll see the same materials up here. So you have real leather across the armrest with a color contrast stitching detail. We also have the optional carbon fiber trim right here and throughout the cabin. We have some Alcantara and a soft touch upper part of the door trim. Down here you have 2 fully automatic windows. Now checking out these seats themselves, these are the 12-way power adjusting seats, which do include power adjusting side bolsters as well as a manual thigh extension. And then like I was mentioning, these are beautiful seats. Just like in all the other Audi S and RS models, the quilted fine Napa leather feels really phenomenal and it looks absolutely stunning. Now, like I was saying, the TTRS really has a unique cabin from other models in the Audi lineup, and that does extend to the different materials. So interestingly, you have this piece of Napa leather right up here on top of the gauge cluster with a stitching detail, and then the rest of the dashboard is finished in a textured soft touch plastic. Dropping down to your lower areas, we have an optional package which gets us leather down here on the center tunnel, and like I already mentioned, we have the carbon fiber which runs through the middle here. Now to start up the TTRS, I really like this detail. You have the push button start mounted right here on the steering wheel. Now, as you guys probably know by this point, this generation of the TT does not have a display at all. That means absolutely every part of the system is going to be located here in your standard virtual cockpit. Now, this does mostly operate the same way as in other Audi models, but there are some extra features, just to make up for the lack of having a main display. Now, as you can see right here, we are on the navigation. This is actually optional on the TTRS, and there is not a head-up display. Now, coming back to the steering wheel, this is one of Audi's most aggressive steering wheels. It's really a beautiful design. Like I already mentioned, you have this start button right there, which I really love. We have Alcantara, of course, a really nice thick grip. We have a center marking in red there. You also have kind of these holes inside of it just for a more aggressive look. And we also have piano black paddle shifters. Now, as far as the steering wheel itself, it is going to be manual tilt and telescoping. However, heating is not available. Now, you will also have standard rain sensing wipers. And then off to the side here, we have our heated seat controls. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about interior storage. Now, this is a sports car, of course, so I don't expect much. And indeed, there is not much space inside of this center console. As you can see, you actually have just one cup holder right here, and this basically acts as your second cup holder. With that being said, there's not really going to be a good way for me to get these coupons inside. Maybe if you really fold them and squish them in there. But then they're going to get all bent up and they're going to be hard to tear out later on. So it's definitely not going to be the ideal car for couponing. However, up in the front here, we have some additional storage. And this bottom area through here, this does act as a wireless phone charger. Plus we have a USB and an aux jack. Now, coming back to the shifter, we have an RS specific Alcantara trim shifter. Pull back for drive, bump to the right if you want to shift manually here, or use those paddle shifters I already mentioned. And then when we go into reverse, of course, there is no center screen like I already mentioned. So your backup camera is actually right here in front of you, which I think is a pretty cool idea. I think more cars should have this. Needless to say, it's not 360 degrees, but you do have active trajectory as well as front and rear parking sensors. And then back behind the shifter, you have your electronic parking brake. Now, oddly enough, despite the fact that there is no main display, they actually still include the MMI controller. So in addition to those steering wheel mounted controls, you can actually use this to control that virtual cockpit system. And then advancing further up here, we have our volume knob. Now, there are two different audio systems on this model. We have the optional one as part of the technology package, which is a 12-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. So let's sample it. Yeah, overall sound quality is just as good as in any other Audi. Okay, so now we are up here at our climate controls. This is another one of those kind of eccentric parts of the TT's cabin, and that's that you don't really have traditional climate controls. They're basically just located inside of the vents. So this is going to be your fan adjustment. This will be the zone for the driver, and then I believe you adjust the temperature for the passenger over there on that side. As far as the vents, you can open and close them and also direct them, just like any other vehicle. Now moving on up here, we do have a frameless auto dimming mirror with a compass inside, and we have 3 HomeLink universal remotes. And then you probably weren't expecting to find it, but you do not have a moonroof since this is a sports car.
Now I'm sure you're actually curious as to if this TTRS does have rear seats, and I'm happy to say that it actually does have rear seats, but you pretty much have to be a contortionist to get back there. But I'll just go ahead and try and demo it for you. Let's just go ahead and get back here. It is very small, to say the least. So just getting back here. Well, so headroom is quite limited. I have nowhere to put my feet. So quite frankly, this rear seat is going to be mainly for storage, or I don't even know what you could really put back here, but it's not going to be another human being.
Over your feet, you would never be able to escape.
Oh my God.
You can't do it. You can't do it.
Oh,
I believe in you.
All right, now it got out. Now, as with pretty much everything else about this TTRS, it is a little bit odd since this is actually kind of like a hatchback. So if you open up the trunk, as you can see, it actually kind of lifts up like a sportback Audi. And inside, you're going to find a huge amount of space for this class of vehicle. Unlike the rear seats, this actually has quite a bit of space. You're coming in at 12 cubic feet, which is actually larger than the Audi S5. So that's certainly something good that you like to see. And there is a 12-volt outlet. And up underneath of the floor, we do have a tiny amount of storage, although you really wouldn't be able to fit much back there. Now over here at the passenger seat, you are going to nicely have the same adjustments. And then as far as your glove box is concerned, it is a little tight. It's nicely felt lined though. And as far as our coupons, I can kind of shove them in there, but they're probably going to get bent, so it might be a little harder to tear them out that way. And then up top, we do have an LED light and mirror, and it does also detach. However, it does not extend.
It was gonna be fast, but it's really fast.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really, really fast, and it just puts the power down, you know, it just goes straight away.
Oh my.
And that sound is fantastic as well.
it sounds, you'll hear us say it a million times throughout the course of this test drive, but it does sound exactly like the Audi R8.
I don't know how they've done it, but yeah, half the cylinders,
oh my
and it still sounds like an R8.
Yeah, we did that drive a year ago with the Audi R8 V10, and I'm telling you, if you want to discount R8 with that sound, this is the way to go.
Now, as far as the specifications, like I already mentioned, half of the cylinders of a V10 R8. So this is actually a 5-cylinder. This is in just the TTRS and the RS3. So it's a very unique motor. It's a 2.5-liter turbo 5-cylinder. And as far as power, it's 394 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. So very healthy numbers, you know, and this is a pretty small and compact vehicle as well.
Yeah, and as far as like your performance figures, that's good for a 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. So it's almost as fast as an R8. So definitely a very fast 0 to 60. It's a lot faster than like an S5 Coupe if that's what you're shopping this with. And then its top speed is limited to 155 miles per hour. You know, and just getting up to speed here, we are on our way to a country road, so stick around if you're wanting to see the performance stuff. But I do want to talk about the everyday livability with this TTRS. We're up to around 50-ish miles per hour. And I have to say, as far as the ride quality is concerned, so this TTRS has 2 suspension setups. It comes standard with an adaptive suspension, which is what we have here, or you also have the no-cost option of getting a fixed suspension, which is kind of the sportier option of the two. And as far as how it kind of rides, it's definitely going to be on the stiffer side. This is not an S5 Cabriolet or anything like that. It's not a grand touring vehicle. It's definitely more focused on the sport side of things.
I'll go ahead and toggle into dynamic mode, and we'll make sure that the active exhaust is in sport mode as well.
Oh wow.
Big difference right off the bat. Wow.
Oh gosh, I don't even know what to say, man. This is you fall in love when you push the accelerator down.
You do. Like it's where the character of this car really just shines. Say it's about pretty much any car that has an active exhaust, but if it's offered, buy it, please. Like in this car, you definitely want it. It makes a huge difference when you turn it into the sport mode. Now, dynamically speaking, of course, this is fantastic. It absolutely feels glued to the road. You know, the suspension is stiff. It really has a nice, nimble, and agile feel. You know, this is a pretty small vehicle, like we already mentioned. You have a short wheelbase, and it feels very tossable. We have the dynamic package, so we have the summer tires as well. So this thing just feels like it could grip just anything, you know. We're definitely not going to be pushing it to the limits of its abilities, let's put it that way. The steering too is very fast responding. It has a nice heavy feel, a lot heavier than for instance, the S5 Cabriolet we drove, you know, about a month ago. You know, it has a lot heavier feel. To me, it feels a lot more accurate as well. You know, so you have pretty decent road feel. Yeah, this is really a joy to drive. Like, you can just hustle this thing.
Yeah.
And enjoy it, of course, as you would expect.
And that right there, that is just today's slam dunk. You know, this is just hands down, you know, no, not even a debate about what today's slam dunk is. And that's just the engine. This 5-cylinder engine is a beast. I mean, we were talking about this. They just need to put this in more products, because this is just an absolutely fantastic engine. It's extremely powerful. It sounds indescribably good. It sounds so good. And it's just really a fantastic engine. You know, it's a little odd being 5 cylinders, but I have to say they definitely pull it off with this TTRS. And then as far as your air ball, since we do have to come up with something that we don't like about this TTRS, it's really just going to have to be kind of the equipment level. For 80 grand, you could definitely get a lot more equipment out of a S5 Cabriolet or something like that. Definitely is just missing odd things, like the safety systems are not offered. You have no ventilated seats. It's really just kind of an odd packaging. It's also not really the most practical. So you're really just buying the engine, and it's certainly a good
all
one.
the performance,
Yeah.
of course. So we're gonna go ahead and try out the manual mode once we take off here. This thing's ridiculous.
Oh. 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 Yay, red lights, we get to do it again.
This thing just pulls so hard.
Wow.
All the quattro all-wheel drive just puts the power down. Now this transmission, I haven't really mentioned it up to this point. This is a 7-speed dual clutch automatic. You don't need me to tell you it shifts extremely fast.
Yeah.
You can see that right there. I mean, it is just always ready to go at the, of course, the automatic mode responds very well also, but when you put it in manual mode, you get instant response, Yeah. So this is kind of, a lot of people talk about it in comparison to like a Porsche Cayman. So if you're worried about the transmission, being like slow or whatever, I haven't driven that, so I can't compare it directly to the PDK, but I don't think you're going to have any complaints, let's put it that way.
Alrighty, and as far as your fuel economy is concerned for this TTRS, you might actually be pleasantly surprised with this, because I was. It's going to come in at 19 city, 29 highway, 23 combined, which is really quite good fuel economy out of something with just a tad under 400 horsepower. Sounds like an RA has a 3.6 second 0 to 60. It's really not going to cost you that much at the pump, so I'm very pleasantly surprised by that. Certainly impressive.
So I guess it's time to conclude. I don't really know what to say, to be honest. It's just a really, really good car. I mean, this video is proof of that the whole way through. You all can see that with your own eyes. This is just a bundle of joy, basically.
Yep.
At the beginning, we said, is this a baby R8? I think it's kind of answered the question. Yes. I mean, yes, it really is. Not everybody can afford to have a supercar, and not that this is cheap or anything, but this is maybe half priced. So it's definitely available to a lot more people, and you're gonna have a blast in it, an absolute blast.
Alrighty, now let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for this TTRS. Now, it does only come at one trim level, so it starts at $67,600, and it does come standard with the Quattro all-wheel drive. Now you do have quite a few different options that you can add on to it. This particular model is pretty much fully loaded out. So we do have the optional technology package for $2,800, dynamic package for $2,000, RS design selection interior for $1,150, the black optic package for $1,050, carbon fiber inlay $600, blind spot monitoring $450, steering wheel marker for $110. Or $300, and then the USB cables for $110, cargo box $75, first aid kit $50, and destination charge of $995 to get this total in at $77,180, which is certainly a lot of money for, you know, a two-door coupe like this. But like I mentioned, this is pretty much fully loaded out, so this is about as high-end as you can get the TTRS, and it certainly has a ton of performance. It's basically a baby R8.
Very unique vehicle.
Yeah, very unique. And honestly, the S5 Cabriolet that we just did was actually a little bit more expensive than that. So this definitely has a lot more performance and crazy exterior styling. Well guys, we've enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the 2020 Audi TT RS. We really appreciate you watching, and if you made it this far in the video, hopefully that means you enjoyed at least a little bit. So be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.